Neighbors, which petty fence clash turned lawsuit nightmare still makes your blood boil daily? Story 1. Neighbor tried to ruin my life and send me to jail on a false accusation. I have video proof and a lawyer now. I've been a tenant at my current apartment for 2 years. The apartments are the nicest in my area, and I pay quite a good chunk in rent monthly for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom. Everyone in my building has been pretty chill. There's 8 units total, occasional one-off things but nothing serious, until recently. Old downstairs neighbor left. New downstairs neighbor moved in shortly after, about 2-3 weeks ago. Main problem is her kid cries pretty much all day and has a tendency to scream quite a bit. The crying isn't something I'm interested in complaining about, but the screaming definitely warrants addressing because it's clear she's not trying to teach her kid to not scream. It seems more behavioral, not a newborn. Screaming. I can see the screaming becoming a bit of a problem in the long run. Is it reasonable to tip my landlord apartment off that this is what I'm noticing? And if it becomes a problem in the future, I'd like to address it. I feel like it's reasonable because it creates a track record. Update. About 3 weeks ago, I decided to start recording the screams of my neighbor's 3-4-year-old kid and reported it to management. Management talked to them, and the downstairs neighbor would work on it. The neighbor the next day then made a retaliatory complaint about me saying I walk loud. I'm on the top floor. She's on the bottom. The neighbor left for 9 days and took the kid somewhere else. I thought, wow, maybe they broke the lease and now I'm free of these gremlins. But something in my heart told me, this isn't over yet. These types of people are just too dumb and too self-righteous to leave without a fight. So me, expecting a war, purchased and installed 2 Nest cameras inside my apartment which pick up audio and video 24/7 with cloud storage for 10 days. Yes, I was that sure that I was dealing with a reckless person and had to protect myself. When she got back about a week and a half ago on Monday, May 19, boy did she come back with a vengeance. She started pounding on my floor, her ceiling, with a broom handle or something at all hours of the day. Not because I was overly loud, because she was retaliating against the complaint I originally made, and she was angry. Every time she would bang, she got me more footage. It's funny because in the videos I would narrate myself explaining the entire situation while she was banging on my floor. Sometimes I'd be in the kitchen eating a Dunkin' sausage, egg and cheese croissant, walk over to the camera, and start saying, yes, today is 5/22/2025 at 3:02 p.m. As you can clearly hear, my neighbors downstairs are banging in retaliation to a noise complaint I submitted about them. And just go on these mini rants to the camera. Then things escalated on Sunday, 5:25, and she would not stop pounding on my floor around 10:30 p.m. She would pound 6-8 times, chill for a bit, then go right back to it. I have to say, I admire her consistency, but I had enough at this point. I don't pay $1,300 a month in rent to deal with this. So I called the non-emergency police line, waited for 45 min outside my apartment, and let the cops in to ask her what's going on with the noise. She refused to answer the door to the police, but I still got a police incident number and planned to pick the police incident up in paper form in person on Tuesday 5/27, because the police station documentation office is not open on Memorial Day Monday 5/26. So the next day goes by, and it's Monday 5/26. I hear some loud knocking on my front door. Strange, maybe it's the gremlins finally coming to confront me. I ignore it for a minute and it keeps going on. So I said, go away, while showing the Nest camera a timestamp of my phone in case it was them. Then they announced they were Insert Me Town Police Department. I opened the door and said, hi guys, what's up? And they said, we're here on a call regarding your interactions with the female downstairs. And I said, are you talking about the incident from yesterday? And they said, no, this is about today. She called dispatch about you 5 minutes ago. Can we please come in? And I said, no, but we can go talk downstairs outside the apartment if you'd like. And I left the door open so the police could see me as I got a shirt on and came down with them. The police asked me what interaction I had with her that day, and I said none, as I've never talked to this woman before in my life, which is the truth. I've never spoken to her or communicated with her in any way. Then they said that she called dispatch and said that I was intoxicated. that I had threatened her from my patio, that she was a single mum with a kid, and that we had a relationship together. This is a domestic dispute setup. So I showed the cops the video footage of what I was doing for the past hour, literally chilling with my cat, giving him those beloved belly rubs, and tidying up some stuff in my apartment from 2 angles. They let me go in 5 minutes. That was on Monday 5/26. The next day on Tuesday 5/27, I went to the police dept and got a copy of both police incidents, as well as getting her full name from the incident. I also contacted my friend who is a county prosecutor and a lawyer and retained him as my lawyer to start work on a cease and desist letter. He also mentioned she tried to set me up for a domestic dispute because our county has a rule where if it's a domestic dispute, they hold you for a minimum of 24 hours. I then went to management and alerted them that they have a tenant who's been pounding on my floor, providing them all documentation, written notes from Google Docs, videos from Google Drive, and they did not give a response. They literally said, "But can we just all have a meeting about this? I'm sure we can work it out." At that moment, I knew how bad it was. I've been a tenant here for 2 years, pleaded my case for 20 minutes to prove my innocence and how bad this other tenant was, and their main reply was, "Let's all have a meeting together." So I said, "Sure, I'll bring my lawyer. We're just going to have to ask her why she falsely informed police that I threatened her so we can pursue legal action against her." "That shouldn't be a problem, right?" they replied. "Oh no, no need to pay an attorney just to come to this." So throughout the rest of the week, I've barely been sleeping, maybe 2 or 3 hours a night. I'm just afraid of her saying something more extreme this time, like I'm drunk and have a weapon, and the cops kicking my door in and ending my life. But all evidence is on my Google Drive shared with my lawyer, my family, and an ex that I'm on really good terms with. I've instructed them, if I do get jailed or swat over this, to sue everyone into oblivion and have provided so much documentation they'll have a strong case. My lawyer also finished with the cease and desist letter, which I'm sending to the gremlins below today through certified mail. Then I'll be pursuing symbolic damages via small claims court, suing them for five different reasons, one a reason, then building a bigger lawsuit against them. I'll also be attempting to work with the police to get a charge against them for false informing. I have promised myself, and whatever entity is out there in this universe, that I will make this woman face consequences for trying to ruin my name, frame me for something I didn't do, and potentially jail or have me harmed by police. If it's the last thing I do, I will pursue this to the furthest realms civilly and lawfully. For now, I am fully prepared to move, if she does not move by the end of next week, since management is not doing anything. Story 2. My neighbor keeps trying to break into my apartment. So here's a fun little mystery from my building. Every single day, morning and evening, at 5 a.m. and again at 10 p.m., like clockwork, my neighbor tries to open my apartment door, with the handle, like it's his. No key, just a firm jiggle of the handle before he realizes it's not opening and casually walks away. For context, I'm a 22-year-old woman living alone. He's probably in his 50s or 60s, not super chatty. Talks to himself a lot though, like full conversations, alone. Also, and I swear I'm not making this up, when he leaves his own apartment, he closes the door and then rings his own doorbell. Every time, no one ever answers. I have so many questions. At first, I thought, honest mistake. But the thing is, he's been living here longer than I have. So, he should know which door is his, right? But we are now weeks into this daily routine. Sir, I promise you, this has never been your apartment. It wasn't yesterday. It won't be tomorrow. And yet, he persists. Like maybe one day, the stars will align, and suddenly the door will open, and he'll walk into a parallel universe or something. I've decided to slip a polite little note into his mailbox, something friendly but clear, just to say, "Hey, please stop trying to open my door, thanks." Maybe that'll be the end of it. Or maybe he'll just start knocking for good measure. Who knows? I'm considering leaving a note on the door, a sign, something like, "Still not your door, champ," or just embrace the chaos and start waving through the peephole every time he tries? Has this happened to anyone else? Am I starring in someone's confused sitcom without knowing? Update. Well, folks, we've had progress? Maybe. Sort of. Here's what happened. After my last post, I left a little note in my neighbor's mailbox. friendly tone but clear message. I then proceeded to live my little quiet life, until the next day when plot twist the knocks on my door. At the exact moment I hear knocking, I know it's him. Call it female intuition or whatever. So I open my door. I smile. Say hi. Like everything is all right. I'm a nice neighbor, you see. He asks me if I'm the one who put a note in his mailbox, and then proceeds to tell me, very insistently, that it's not him. Not once, not twice, but multiple times, like a remix on loop. I tell him I hear his door open and then, a few seconds later, my handle wiggle. He smiles, shakes his head, and says, nope, wasn't him. So I play it cool and drop a casual. It actually wakes me and my boyfriend up, because hey, being a woman living alone next to a strange door enthusiast doesn't feel amazing. Still, he denies everything. So, in the name of peace and survival, I smile, say, I must have made a mistake, hope he doesn't mind, really sorry for the trouble, and close the door. I then proceed to check my locks. Not once, not twice. Honestly, I lost count. And just a quick note for those worried about my safety. I see you, protective internet strangers. I have 2 locks and a chain on the door, and I never forget to lock it. I even check it multiple times a day when I'm home. We're staying safe and paranoid, the ultimate combo. Now here's the fun part. This morning, for the first time in ages, no door handle rattle, which strongly suggests, yeah, it was him. Surprise, I'm really not. A miracle? Or maybe he really walked into a parallel universe, but my bet is, he just realized I knew what he was doing. But, because there's always one, you know, around 4 a.m., I heard him open and close his door. Twice, like full door theatrics. Open, close, lock, repeat. Not quietly, not once, twice. So while he's no longer touching my door, for now, let's make a bet. How long will it last? I'm taking guesses. He's still, apparently living out some kind of nocturnal hallway ritual. Don't ask me why. The hallway spirits, maybe, or obsessive behavior, as many of you suggested. So yeah, we're celebrating small wins. For now, my door gets to rest in peace. Let's hope it stays that way. And let's all repeat it together. Some doors just aren't yours, buddy. Story 3. Neighbor is stalking me and my family. I have contacted the mayor, the FBI, a lawyer, the local police, and the sheriff. Because the man doing the stalking is a local police officer in our town, and his wife thinks she is above the law, no one will help me. I am told she is in her yard, and in this small town it is hard to say it is stalking. Within 10 minutes of coming outside she appears. She hides in her bushes, walks down her driveway, drives by my house, sits on her porch, opens her windows, always something to show me she is watching. I have been followed on walks as well. They have a camera on their porch and monitor our every move. Last year, a neighbor came over and told me she watches me and is stalking me. This neighbor also told me they never come outside because she watches them too, so they don't even get to enjoy their yard because this woman makes them so uncomfortable. They did this to the neighbors right next door to them for 3 years, and the other neighbor's son, a few doors down from the stalker. This is disturbing and unsettling. She is a creep, and so is her husband. I have told her twice to stop, that the neighbors see her doing it, and I have an attorney, and she won't stop. The people she stalked for 3 years that live right next door to them now have what seems like Stockholm Syndrome and are now defending the officer and his wife, even joining in on stalking us. I asked those people to make a statement to the police to help us, and they literally turned on us and are now siding with the ones harassing us. I have witnesses and have since installed cameras that prove the stalking. I had arbor vitae planted to block as much of her view as I can, and she still won't stop stalking me. I sing the song, I always feel like somebody's watching me, when she comes outside. It's gotten to the point that before I come home or walk outside, I record videos showing no one is outside, and within minutes, they are outside. If she isn't home and we come outside, I swear to God she watches her camera and comes home immediately. She's always minutes from her home. She drives by our house all the time when we are outside. And she only leaves for 10 minutes. She always needs to know where we are in our yard. I'm incredibly upset that no one is helping us. I can't move, and I shouldn't have to. This was our dream house. She needs to be charged with harassment and stalking. Thank you. Any suggestions are welcome. Story 4. Neighbors who harass. Moved into my house in September 2022. The people I bought it from described the neighbors as a nice retired couple. The male lady is related to them and made a comment. She likes her yard a certain way. It seemed okay at first. The husband beer belly and all staying busy at her command. She seemed a little off, like two-way communication wasn't her forte. She did complain a lot about all the other neighbors and the people who used to own my house. Generally, no one is up to her standards. I live in a super rural area of Florida. You drive down the road and see a nice house, a rundown trailer, a nice trailer, a beautiful farm, very mixed. Our issue started with the fence between the properties. It was old and very crooked. The wife was constantly sharing ways to improve my yard. Trust me, it is not unkempt. She just spends hours each day picking up leaves and small twigs. She first wanted her husband to trim my trees down to low bush size. I said no. I like my barrier. Then she told me to rake the leaves again, not a lot of them. I usually just mulch them with the mower. Her husband at one point told me she had nothing else in her life but that yard. Back to the fence. She said she had wanted to change it, and that she and her husband didn't care what I chose. My mistake was assuming it was old and crooked, and mine took to task of taking it down. It was 3 layers of wire zip-tied together. I was 63 at the time. Neither volunteered to help. Got to the corners and realized the fence wrapped onto their property both ends. Ran to grab the survey. Entire crooked fence ran on their property. None was mine. I let the wife know it was not my fence. I wasn't taking it down. Offered to show her the survey. She said they had one. I think they were just trying to get me to replace their fence. No discussion of shared expense or anything like that. Just me thinking my fence had encroached. They took it down and put nothing up. I have dogs, little yappers, but still. I was maxed out financially, so I put up field fence done by a professional on my property. It ended at the corner of my house. It left a section of their yard open, which she complained about. I just do not understand why they would expect me to replace their fence. It has just gotten worse and worse since. She started putting up all these lights on that side, right outside my bedroom. Then they added an LED on the property line that completely shines on my house. I did ask them about the lights and how bright they were. They do not hit their house at all. She told me she had already spoken to the cops and they had a right. He told me to get lost and get off his property. I was already wavering on selling and moving out of state. This sealed it. Since the fence incident, I paid more attention to my cameras, realized they come outside to see what I'm doing every time I go outside. She blows her leaves through my fence into my yard. They creep around at night to see if my vehicle is there. My camera is aimed at the street but catches that edge of yard. I always felt that someone was watching me out there. She once told me, "I can still hear you, you know." Only thing I could think of is my bedroom window on that side. My boyfriend and I being intimate? I mentioned it to him and he said the only way she could hear is if she was standing at the fence, because their house is too far away. Super uncomfortable. They were super curious when he first started coming by, wondering if she was creeping whenever she saw his truck. My dog called her out a couple weeks ago. I was working in the backyard when he started barking at a random section of privacy she has up. She was standing behind it watching me. Gave her a 2-handed 1-finger salute. Yes, I know you watch me, you creep. Story 5. Neighbor is saying we cannot use shared access driveway. Yesterday, my neighbor told my fiancé and me that we cannot use the previously stated shared access driveway. She called it her driveway and then started threatening us if we didn't move the cars. We do have another driveway that is rarely used because we live on a fairly steep decline and a lot of cars will bottom out. The neighbors are leasing the property from a family member. Do they have any legal standing on us not using the shared access driveway? Location: Northeast Alabama. ETA: I just found out from a property line search that the entire driveway is on my property per county records. Edit 2. Called the cops again because they put posts behind my vehicles. They know the property lines now and have been told to get a surveyor out if they have issues with it. Story 6. Neighbors hired 24/7 security guards that face my house with headlights. I live in a very safe suburb in a normal house. My neighbors across the street have a much nicer house than mine, and they have now hired security guards that sit in a car backed into their driveway all night, sometimes with their lights on. So they are facing my house all night, and they can see me making dinner, going to bed, etc. Is there any legal pathway to stopping this? These neighbors have refused to engage with me or anyone in the neighborhood. I have tried to knock on their door, but they don't answer, and I never see them outside. I do know their family has a lot of money from a restaurant business. I feel very uncomfortable with men who may or may not be background checked looking at my house all day, every day, and knowing when I am home alone. Story 7. Eater, crazy neighbor. We just moved into a new townhome, and we're horrified at our new neighbors. For context, when we moved in, there were 5 cops outside of their home, because apparently there was a domestic dispute. Shocking, but we were all right. The next evening, long story short, that same night we moved in, I ended up with a stomach bug and didn't get back home from the hospital until the next morning. I was asleep all day while my husband unpacked, and our toddler had been at a friend's place during the move. The whole day was quiet. We picked up our kiddo, and she ended up sick, so my husband rushed her to the ER while I isolated upstairs. As they're pulling into the driveway, the neighbor who was apparently outside waiting this whole time, unbeknownst to me, confronts my husband at 10:30 p.m. yelling at him while he's bringing home our sick toddler, saying we've been banging on the wall all day. He just shrugged it off and said, "Okay, cool," and came inside and told me. I'm in mama bear mode because it's been quiet all day in our home and my husband was out with our sick child. The next morning around 7 a.m., she's banging on the walls so hard that our dishes are shaking in the pantry as we're getting ready for the day. My husband is at work, and I'm out all day since everyone is feeling better, and we just shrug it off. Come this morning as we're pulling up to the house at 8:30. Side note, kiddo wasn't feeling well after her all clear, so we decided to bring her home from daycare. There she is, standing outside. When my husband gets out of the car, she starts going off on him and coming towards our car screaming about banging on the walls this morning and all night. Mind you, we were all out of the home. I end up losing my cool having a sick kid and having had a terrible move, and I tell her, "Ma'am, we've been in and out of the hospital all weekend." She then said, "I don't give an F. It's not an excuse to bang on the wall." And I said, "Ma'am, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior. We're trying to tell you it's impossible for anyone to have been banging on your wall because we haven't been home during the time you've just accused us of." She keeps coming closer to our car, so we're like, "If you don't get off our driveway, I'm calling the cops," and we left and called the non-emergency line and filed a complaint. Story 8. Can I do anything about my nosy neighbor? I, a 25-year-old female, live in a townhouse community with a homeowners association. I understand my bylaws, and I follow them. My neighbor, a woman in her 60s or 70s, is stalking me and has been since I moved in. I have guests park adjacent to my townhouse, which is beside hers. She comes out and yells at my guests that they can't park there. The bylaws say they can during the day. She takes photos of their license plates. This has happened 2 to 3 times. I recently got a puppy, and, granted, she barks. Never at night, only during the day, and never for over 20 minutes. I'm training her to be better about separation. I noticed my neighbor sitting in her car 2 days ago. I was sitting in mine to crate train the puppy inside. Probably 10 minutes. During this time, she backed out of her driveway, drove down the street to the dead end to circle, and backed in. Okay, cool. Then she did it again, and again. I didn't think she was watching me until I took the dog to the backyard and saw her still driving slowly down the street. Fast forward to today. I'm outside in my backyard. There's tall grass in a common area behind the homes. My dog is playing in it, quietly, on common property. I turn around and see my neighbor has her iPhone up to her glass door with the curtain pulled open, clearly recording me. I stare into the camera and walk back to my yard. She's still tilting her camera and recording me. I text my other neighbor, and she comes out and sits with me, and we just sit in the common area. HOA says it's civil, and I should call non-emergency, but I doubt they'd do anything. Do I have any options? Story 9. Neighbor is dumping their septic, and now we have E. coli in our water. Location: Hernando County, FL. Hey everyone. My wife and I are first-time homeowners. We are also on a well. We have noticed our neighbors, they are renting, pumping their septic into their yard for a couple of months now, and it's really gross because we can smell sewage from our porch, and it's obviously very unsafe and illegal. We got our water tested by the Department of Health, and it came back positive for E. coli and fecal coliforms. We shocked our well but did an at-home test, and it came back positive again, which is further proof that they are contaminating our well. The cherry on top is we have talked to them first. They were afraid of the owner raising the rent and said they would fix it. Then we wrote them a letter. Then they came over and screamed at us. Finally, we filed a complaint with the DOH and are in the midst of that. We have to install some sort of UV filter or something, but I feel like we shouldn't have to pay for it. What do you all think? Thank you. Comment 1. Contact the county health department and the owner of the property. This is regulated. It's also illegal. You may have to treat your well for your own safety, but their continued dumping is illegal and should be shut down immediately. If anyone else in your area has a well, theirs could be contaminated also. I would make sure the other neighbors are aware of it. From Google. Phone number at the bottom. Illegal septic tank dumping in Florida. Penalties and reporting. Illegal septic tank dumping in Florida can result in serious legal consequences, including hefty fines and even criminal charges. The severity of the penalties depends on several factors, such as quantity and type of waste, environmental harm, prior offenses, potential penalties, misdemeanor or felony charges, substantial fines, probation and community service, imprisonment, restitution for environmental remediation and cleanup costs. Comment 2. Health Department regulator in another state. This is a major criminal violation in my state, particularly if repeated after notice from the local regulator. Ask the local health department for records and documents related to your complaint. Say, this is a request under FOIA. See what timeline and actions they gave the violator for correction. If the timeline passes by 30 days uncorrected, make another FOIA request. They won't love that, but it's their job. If still no fix, detail these records and your photo evidence. You have this, I hope, to the state legislator for your area, telling them how the state agency is failing to protect public health. Copy the state health commissioner and governor in this message. This is my advice from someone whose line of work it is to fix these problems. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. But do not be rude, repetitive, or clearly annoying to the government at any level. It can be a fine line. Also, don't claim to know your neighbor caused your well problem. Just repeat, they are endangering public health and groundwater supplies. Story 10. I feel devastated. My neighbor is intentionally harassing me with bass noise. I have made multiple complaints to the housing company we rent from. Sent them multiple recordings and chats of him admitting it's from him, and even threatening to get louder, plus a photo of his soundbar and subwoofer that he himself shared in the building group chat. The housing company is not doing anything. They are coming to place a decibel recorder next week after 5 months. I complained to the municipality. Nothing changed. I called the cops recently. The second time they came, they witnessed it themselves from outside and gave the first warning. I just want to cry. This has destroyed my life for the past 6 months. I no longer enjoy anything. My sleep is ruined. My mental health is ruined. I don't know what to do. I'm doing everything I can to stay calm and not snap. I've just kept calling the cops recently. I also live in social housing and therefore can't afford to leave. I need help. Comment 1. I have had this war before with a neighbor. I can't stand heavy Bassett's triggering. The police didn't do anything because he'd stopped just in time. I reached out to my neighbors who were also tired of putting up with it. Several of the more senior folks went to his house. Turns out he didn't want police involvement because of possible other things going on. We all exchanged phone numbers, and there is power in numbers. It's been a couple of quiet months now. Latest update. He put a heavy woofer in his truck, and daily rides off with the sound fading away. Best to you. Comment 2. You poor thing. Do you have any intimidating-looking friends who can tell them to knock it off? You've done all you can do on your own. I'm telling you, you can't live like this. It will cause trauma and continue to break you down. Look for a housing advocate who works with some kind of charity organization. Maybe you can get help and free legal advice. You need and deserve support, and there is someone who can help you. Comment 3. Download some banjo music and play it 24/7. I had the same situation years ago in a townhouse in South Carolina. Someone next door played extremely loud music at all hours. I talked to them several times and they just ignored me. So when I went on vacation for 10 days, I set all of my speakers facing a shared wall and put a bluegrass CD on repeat. They got the point. Comment 4. Download some banjo music and play it 24/7. I had the same situation when I was living in a townhouse in South Carolina years ago. The neighbors moved into the unit next door and played very loud music at all hours. I talked to them several times about it and they just blew me off. So when I went on vacation for 10 days, I set all of my speakers facing a shared wall and put a bluegrass CD on repeat. They got the point. Story 11. Neighbor's dog attacked my dog and my mum's pig. Now they're wanting to have my animals put down. What do I do? My dog was asleep on her bed in my yard, wearing an invisible fence collar inside an electric fence that she respects and doesn't go past. Out of nowhere, my neighbor's dog walked out of their house because they didn't shut the door. The dog saw my dog, immediately locked on, and ran across the driveway into my yard to attack her while she was sleeping. I managed to get the dog off of her fairly quickly, but I didn't have anything to restrain it, so I used a stick until it let go. It had no collar or identification. This dog also has a documented bite history. Of course, my dog tried to defend herself, but she only weighs 36 pounds. The other dog was over 70 pounds. As soon as I gave my dog a command, she came into a heel beside me and didn't move from that spot until I told her she could. She was under control. Meanwhile, the neighbor is claiming that because my dog defended herself, she escalated the situation. Before I could even check on my dog, I had to go after the other dog again because it was trying to break into my chicken coop. While trying to get it away from there, it bit me on the thigh. Then it went after my mum's miniature pig. The pig is actually a little larger than the dog and can defend itself. Unfortunately, once the dog latched onto the pig, it was over. The dog is no longer alive. All of this happened inside my fenced yard. The dog literally broke through the electric fence. My mum's pig has some minor bite marks and a torn ear, but he'll be okay. Both he and my dog were given pain medication and cream for their wounds. I want to make it clear, if I had a way to protect them more effectively, I would have used it the moment I saw that dog running through my fence. Now, the police won't do anything because I didn't take a video of the attack. Apparently, trying to save my dog instead of pulling out my phone means there's no evidence. I believe the only reason my dog doesn't have more severe injuries is because she was wearing a tactical harness. When the other dog bit her back, it got a mouthful of the harness instead of flesh. My neighbors are now demanding that my dog and my mum's pig be euthanized, claiming they're aggressive despite their dog being the one that got out, ran across a driveway, broke through a fence, and attacked a sleeping dog, then tried to hurt a pig. Honestly, I feel really bad for their dog. It's not the dog's fault. They raised it from a puppy and never trained it, just yelled at it, hit it, and tied it outside all day. That dog could have been good if it had better owners. But the world is cruel, and now here we are. Right now, I don't have the money to fix my fence properly. I managed to reattach the wire, but the plastic fence posts were broken in the attack. I use them because I move the fence sometimes. The dog broke 3 of them, and with the vet bills I just paid, I can't afford to replace them for a while. I've got sticks propping it up for now. Now the neighbors are trying to get me to pay for their dog, and I really don't know what to do. I'm confused as to why the police and animal control are both refusing to act. It feels like no one wants to help, and I don't know where to turn. Story 12. Neighbor's exotic cat attacked our cat in our backyard. Yesterday evening, our neighbor's exotic cat got out of their house and came into our backyard. We have 2 elderly domestic short-hair cats, 1 male and 1 female, both indoor, outdoor. The neighbor's cat is twice the size of ours, and while it's allowed outside, it normally stays in a fully fenced backyard. It escaped through their front door. When we discovered it in our backyard, it had our female cat cornered on the deck. We immediately brought her inside and managed to scare it back over the fence to the neighbor's property. We informed her the cat had escaped and helped her look for it in our front yard. While looking, we found our other male cat hiding in the bushes. We brought him in as well and did a quick check to make sure he was okay. We thought nothing of it until about 3 or 4 hours later, when we noticed he was lethargic and tired. Upon inspection, we discovered several cuts on his face and head, including a particularly worrisome 1-inch scratch on the top of his head. We called the emergency vet, and they advised us to bring him in for evaluation. We checked our female cat as well, she was completely fine. We came home with some antibiotics and a cone for him. The vet assured us he should recover completely. We want to speak to the neighbor and ask them to cover half of the medical bill, about $150. However, will this open us up to being asked to cover any hypothetical medical bills from their end if it's discovered that our cat managed to hurt theirs? Update. I spoke with our neighbors and they were very apologetic and immediately covered half, so everything turned out okay. Thank you for the advice. Story 13. Overheard neighbor saying rude comment when I was gardening. Just wondering how I should take this, since these neighbors have never waved to me from day one and actually choose to park in front of my house instead of the other side of their curb, which has a ton of parking. Today, I heard the wife outside with what I suspect was a friend, and she goes, "There she is again in the garden." I had my body not facing them since I was gardening and could care less if they don't like me. Along with that comment, in the past she drives fast by me on purpose, swerving into her driveway as if I'm a nuisance just for gardening on my own property. She lives across from me, and I don't make any noise while gardening, so I'm genuinely confused. Could this be based on just my looks? I heard her arguing with her husband and him saying, "No, don't go over there," one day, and she seems to always be arguing with him in front of their house whenever I'm outside. It's bizarre. I don't wear anything inappropriate outside, but it's now coming to my attention that she doesn't want me outside of my house, period. I don't go on their property and haven't said a word to her.